was never going to happen to me. A mother, a wife, an advocate for women. What I thought was an absolutely bulletproof female. But it did. On a day like any other. See, I drove to work the exact same way I always did. I pulled into that parking lot where I'd worked for 10 years. I parked in the exact same parking spot. I went to gather my things to get out of my car. And as I opened my door, there he was. Literally inches from my face. I asked him quickly, "Can I help you?" And before the words even muttered out of my mouth, he punched me so hard in the face. He took me by my hair and he ripped me to that asphalt pavement. He punched me 4, 5, 6 more times. But guess what? At that point, I wasn't even counting. I was doing everything I could to stay alive. I screamed. I gasped. I prayed for someone to help me. I was no longer a human to him. I was merely an object. The only words I remember him muttering out to me were, "Shut the fuck up," as blood, saliva, and tears quickly rolled down my face. I tried so hard to crawl away from him, but he was relentless. He came up from behind me and he took the large crease of his elbow. He put it under my throat. And at that point, I thought he was trying to kill me. I passed out and was unconscious. By the act of someone so much higher than me, I felt the bright lights. I felt something heavy on my chest. I knew it was fight or flight in that moment. And that office building that always seemed so close to me seemed so far away. I got on my feet and I ran with everything I could. All while wondering, would he chase me? Did he have a gun? Would I make it to safety? I walked and ran in that office building and I screamed the loudest, blood-curdling scream, "Someone help me!" And luckily, they came to my rescue. He was caught by foot and brought to custody. I was rushed off in an ambulance to a trauma center. The next 36 hours were an absolute blur. Detective reports, police, doctors taking so many vitals. And I'll never forget standing on my own front lawn with Drew and Adeline as newscasters continued to show up on my doorstep. You see, it wasn't until a few days later, I was by myself in my own backyard, in my gazebo, where I always felt so safe. And I was so scared. I had my hooded sweatshirt on. I could feel the tears, those hot tears just rolling down my face, wondering if I'd be okay. But in that exact moment, I realized I had a choice. I could let him define me, or I could level up. I could be a mere victim, a survivor, or I could thrive. I could have the audacity to be absolutely resilient. And believe me, there were so many moments that all I wanted to do was to go up in my bedroom, to pull down the shades, to crawl under my covers, and eat more Ben & Jerry's ice cream than was humanly possible. I might have even eaten some last night. So choosing between moving forward and having resilience isn't easy. But I'm encouraging everyone to choose the gift of resilience. But what is resilience anyways? Is it something we're born with, or is it something we can learn? I believe it is like a muscle that you can define, you can strengthen, and you can flex over and over and over again as we go through the various stages of our life. But let's face it, as peculiar as this may sound, trauma is a gift. That of resilience. I would ask you all to take a brief moment and just close your own eyes. Think about your own trauma. Was it when you were 5 years old and you remember your parents fighting, worried that they may get divorced? Was it when your spouse or your young child got diagnosed with a terminal illness? Was it when your mother passed away at the young age of 70 and you didn't get one more day with her? Was it when your child walked in from school one day and was bullied and seeing the look on their face, wanting to make it all better? Is it losing a part of you and realizing that you've just never been the same since? We've all been there. We've all felt that pain. But open your eyes. Look around. We all have a lot more in common than we even realize. You have no idea what someone else is dealing with. What trauma have they experienced? According to the Council of Behavioral Health, 70% of all adult Americans will face at least one trauma in their lifetime. That's 223 million people. 223 million people walking around who have had trauma. And although we're all going to deal with it differently, we have to learn to deal with it effectively. Because if we don't, the stakes can be astonishingly high. Someone that has trauma is 15 times more likely to attempt suicide. 4 times more likely to be an alcoholic. 3 more times likely to be depressed. And that's where resilience comes in. And learning to build through it. When I was at the height of my own personal trauma, I found 3 things that were really relatively simple when you think of them, but they really helped me. And I thought they may just help you too. First, lean into the pain. I know this may sound counterintuitive. Because as humans, what else do we want to do? We want to push it down. We want to repress it. We want to forget about it. We want to numb that pain. But when you surround yourself with the right people and the right environment, and you dare to walk into the fire of your own personal trauma, amazing things can happen. But when you choose not to, that fire is going to continue to burn around you. And sadly, it may even burn you out. Trauma has such a sneaky way on creeping up on us when we least expect it. If we don't deal with our own trauma head on, it can be scary. But I'm here to remind you that your trauma is real and your trauma is valid. And just like a beautiful snowflake, no 2 traumas are the same. So can we all agree not to play that comparison game with each other? If we don't take the time to indulge in our own self-care, the risks can be high. The average person only spends 15 minutes a day investing in their own well-being, in health. We take the risk of losing ourselves. I have honored this pain, even on days I don't feel like it, and there are plenty. But I will say after 9 months of intense therapy, I feel lighter, I feel stronger, I feel more empowered, and so much less triggered than I did just 9 months ago. And I remind myself and each of you, this didn't happen to me, it happened for me. The second way is to cultivate the right mindset. This should be relatively simple. Luckily, I was already working on this well before this incident. But I remember when someone said, work on mindset, where would I start? Well, for me, it's relatively easy. I take about 5 or 6 minutes when I get up every morning and I read my spiritual, devotional, and leadership books and put my head in a really good spot. I then take out my journal and my pen and I write down all of the things I'm grateful for. Because when we're grateful for what we already have, we attract so much more. And lastly, before going to bed, I do my attraction statements, the things that I want to bring into my life. I focus on attracting the positivity and pushing away all that negativity that wants to creep in on everyone's life. But there's a secret sauce to this recipe. It has to be non-negotiable. Working on mindset can't be one day and not the other. You need to work on it every single day. There's days when I forget to and I find myself floundering in anxiety. And I remind myself that when we work on ourselves just 1% every day, we have a 37% improvement overall in our lives in just 365 short days. I want to encourage you to have that audacity to be resilient. And that leads me to my last point. The point I try to instill in Adeline and Drew every day. And that is be the light. Our voices matter. Your voices matter. Someone deserves to hear your story. Someone is waiting for you to light them up and allow them to share. For me, that's sharing this story. That's raising money for women of domestic violence. And it's daring to take the red carpet tonight and share it with each of you. But I want to remind you, it doesn't take the red carpet to show your light. This can be relatively simple. Showing someone empathy, putting your hand on their shoulder, smiling at them, sitting down with them and just allowing them to share their story too. So although the statistic says that only 70% of us deal with trauma, I believe that number is far, far higher. So whatever your trauma looks like in your world, accept it. And notice that resilience is the way out. And with these 3 steps, the gift of resilience, it has allowed me to move forward. And I want to encourage each and every one of you to have the audacity to be resilient alongside me too. Thank you.